billions lost. Lives ruined. Entire industries shaken to the core. Fraud isn't just about money, it's about trust. And when that trust is broken, the damage can last for decades. In today's video, we're counting down the top 10 biggest fraud cases in U.S. history. Scandals so shocking they changed laws, destroyed legacies, and still serve as cautionary tales. Stay tuned until the end because the number one case is often called the biggest fraud in modern history. Number 10. Wells Fargo Fake Accounts Scandal. In 2016, one of America's most trusted banks, Wells Fargo, admitted to creating millions of fake accounts without customers' knowledge. Employees, pressured by impossible sales targets, secretly opened accounts, moved money, and even signed people up for credit cards. The scandal involved over 3.5 million unauthorized accounts, resulting in massive fines, congressional hearings, and a permanent stain on the bank's reputation. It proved that fraud isn't always about one person at the top. It can be a culture of corruption throughout an entire organization. Number 9. HealthSouth Scandal. HealthSouth was one of the largest healthcare providers in the U.S. But in 2003, investigators suspected that CEO Richard Scrushy had masterminded a scheme to inflate company earnings by $2.7 billion. This wasn't just creative accounting. It was outright deception to keep the company's stock price high. Executives admitted to faking numbers, and while Scrushy managed to avoid conviction on fraud charges, the scandal rocked Wall Street and highlighted the dangers of unchecked corporate power in healthcare. Number 8. Tyco International. Next up is Tyco International, where CEO Dennis Kozlowski and CFO Mark Schwartz treated the company's money like their personal piggy bank. Over several years, they stole more than $150 million through unauthorized bonuses, stock fraud, and lavish perks. The most infamous example? A $6,000 shower curtain paid for with company funds. When the fraud was exposed, Kozlowski and Schwartz were sentenced to long prison terms, becoming symbols of corporate greed at its worst. Number 7. WorldCom Scandal. WorldCom, once the second-largest long-distance phone company in the U.S., collapsed in 2002 after one of the largest accounting frauds in history. Executives inflated assets by over $11 billion to keep the company afloat. When the fraud was revealed, WorldCom filed for bankruptcy. 30,000 employees lost their jobs, and investors lost everything. CEO Bernard Ebbers was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Alongside Enron, WorldCom became the face of corporate fraud in the early 2000s. Number 6. Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes. In Silicon Valley, hype is everything. And no startup embodied this more than Theranos. Founded by Elizabeth Holmes, the company claimed it could run hundreds of blood tests with just a drop of blood. At its peak, Theranos was valued at $9 billion. But the truth was far darker. The technology didn't work. Patients received false results, investors were misled, and Holmes became one of the most infamous fraudsters in tech history. In 2022, she was convicted of fraud and sentenced to over 11 years in prison. Theranos is a lesson in how charisma and marketing can sometimes blind even the smartest investors. By the way, if you're enjoying this countdown so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into money, power, and scandals. Number 5. FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. Jumping to the world of crypto, FTX was once one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges, valued at over $32 billion. Its founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, was hailed as a genius, a philanthropist, even the J.P. Morgan of crypto. But behind the scenes, billions of dollars of customer funds were secretly funneled to his hedge fund, Alameda Research, to cover risky bets. When the fraud came to light, FTX collapsed in days, wiping out billions and shaking global confidence in the entire crypto market. Bankman-Fried now faces decades in prison, and the crypto industry may never be the same. Number 4. Charles Ponzi Scheme. Sometimes a fraud is so famous it defines the crime itself. Charles Ponzi promised investors a 50% return in just 90 days by exploiting international postal reply coupons. Thousands of people poured money into his scheme. But Ponzi wasn't making real profits. He was paying old investors with new investors' money. By the time it collapsed, he had stolen what would be worth $200 million today. Ponzi went to prison, but his name lives on as the Ponzi scheme, a fraud model still used a century later. Number 3. Enron 2001. Enron was once hailed as the most innovative company in America, ranked 7th on the Fortune 500. But behind the glossy image was a web of accounting tricks designed to hide billions in debt. When the fraud unraveled in 2001, Enron collapsed overnight. Shareholders lost $74 billion, employees lost pensions, and one of the world's largest accounting firms, Arthur Andersen, was destroyed for its role in the cover-up. The Enron scandal was so massive it led to the creation of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, a landmark law designed to prevent corporate fraud. Number 2. Bernie Madoff. The largest Ponzi scheme in history was run by none other than Bernie Madoff, a former chairman of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. For decades, he promised investors steady returns, attracting billionaires, charities, and celebrities. In reality, there were no profits, only lies. When his empire collapsed in 2008, losses were estimated at $65 billion. Thousands of families were wiped out, and Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. His scheme remains the biggest personal fraud ever committed in the United States. Number 1. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac accounting scandal. And finally, number 1. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the giant mortgage lenders at the heart of America's housing market, were caught in a massive accounting scandal in 2004. Executives had manipulated earnings by billions to secure bonuses and mislead investors. While this case alone didn't cause the 2008 financial crisis, it shattered trust in the mortgage system and highlighted how fragile the housing market truly was. The fallout from these institutions played a critical role in the financial meltdown that followed, costing the U.S. economy trillions. These 10 cases prove one thing: fraud can happen anywhere, from Wall Street banks to Silicon Valley startups. Each left behind broken lives, tighter regulations, and a warning for future generations. So, which of these fraud cases shocked you the most? Was it the collapse of Enron, the lies of Theranos, or the sheer scale of Madoff's Ponzi scheme? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the biggest scandals in history.